a tutorial on solving one-step equations. So the big key to solving equations is using opposites. So when we're using addition and subtraction, we have to remember those are opposites, and multiplying and dividing are opposites. And another thing about equations is it's always a good idea to check, because you can always check your work when working with equations. So here on the screen you see a equation and two possible solutions and the check work underneath the solutions. So as you can see on the left side, we found that m equals negative 16. So what we did is we went back to our original problem, and wherever there was an m, we substituted in a negative 16. And when we work out the equation, negative 16 plus 4, we get negative 12. And negative 12 does equal negative 12, so we know that we did it correctly. Whereas on the right side, we have m equals negative 8. So again, when we go back to the original problem and put negative 8 in for m, we get negative 8 plus 4, which is negative 4. And negative 4 is not equal to negative 12, so we know that we did not do it correctly. Let's go ahead and begin with m plus 4 equals negative 12. So when you're working with equations, you want the letter, the variable by itself, and you want everything else on the other side of the equal sign. So we need to move this plus 4 to the other side. And the way that we do that is by doing the opposite. So the opposite of plus 4 would be minus 4. And whenever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So we just bring our m down. We haven't done anything to it. Plus 4 and minus 4 is 0, so that's gone. M equals, and then negative 12 minus 4 is negative 16. So m equals negative 16 is my solution for my first problem. Now, as we've already talked about, the best thing to do is to check our work to see, okay, let's see if I did this correctly. So I go back to my original problem, and everywhere where I have an m, I'm going to put in negative 16. Okay. Now negative 16 plus 4 is negative 12. And negative 12 equals negative 12, so hey, I did it right. So let's try this next problem here. 3 plus p equals 8. Now this time the p's on the right and the numbers on the left, but you're still going to work the problem the same way. I need to move this number over to the other side so I can know what p is. So to find p, I need to do the opposite to this 3 here. Now it's positive 3, so the opposite would be subtract 3, or negative 3. So that's what I do to both sides. So plus 3, positive 3, and negative 3 is 0, so that's gone. I bring my p down. P equals 8 minus 3 is 5. So that's my solution. So let's check it. Make sure we did that properly. We do 3 plus p. Now we found p to also mean 5, so we're going to put a 5 in there. So 3 plus 5 is 8. And 8 equals 8. So, hey, we did that correctly. Now our next set of practice problems involve addition. So we begin with p minus 6 equals -5. And again, when I'm working these type of problems, I'm not thinking addition, subtraction, I'm thinking opposites. So I look at minus 6 and I think opposite. The opposite of minus 6 is plus 6. And I have to do that to both sides of my equation. So p minus 6 plus 6 is 0, so that's gone, equals, and then minus 5 plus 6 is 1. So that's my solution. Let's scoot over here and begin checking my work. Alright, p is 1, so I'm going to put a 1 in where my p is in my equation. And 1 minus 6 is -5. -5 equals -5, so I did it correctly. Alright, next problem is v minus 15 equals -27. So I look at the side with my variable, and I look at that constant, that number with no variable, and it's minus 15. So the opposite of minus 15 would be plus 15. And I have to do that to both sides of my equation. So I'll bring my v down. -15 or minus 15 and plus 15 is 0, so that's gone. Equals, alright, -27 plus 15 is -12. So v equals -12. I'm going to come over here and check my work. V is interchangeable with -12, so -12 minus 15 equals -27. And if you're having some difficulties with subtracting negative numbers, always remember that you can change that negative or that subtraction sign to a plus negative, and then you look and you see that both our numbers have the same sign, so we're going to add them together and keep the sign, which would be -27 equals -27, which means our solution is correct. Alright, our next set of practice problems are going to involve division. And if you go ahead and look at this first problem, you can already see that there's a difference between our old practice problems and these practice problems, because now there's not any plus or minus sign in between our variable and our number. They're touching, they're right next to each other. Now 10 n is the same thing as saying 10 times n equals 40. So I need to think about that because, again, opposites. So the opposite of 10 times n would be to divide by 10. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Now with addition and subtraction, the opposites create 0, which gets rid of that number on the side with the variable. But when you're multiplying and dividing, you're not looking for 0, you're looking for 1. 10 divided by 10 is 1, which gives us 1n, or we can just write it as n. And n equals 40 divided by 10 is 4. So n equals 4 is our solution. And you're going to check it the same way that we checked our addition and subtraction one-step equations, by taking out our n and putting in a 4. So 10 times 4 is 40, and 40 equals 40, so we did it correctly. Now this next practice problem has the variable on the right side instead of the left side. Now, you can work it with that variable on the right side and the numbers on the left side, and it won't matter in the end. You'll get the same solution, or you can go ahead and flip that as long as you don't change any signs. If I wanted to write 8x equals negative 104, that would be fine. As long as I don't flip it and lose a negative sign or something like that, I'm okay. I'm just going to go ahead and work it like it appears in our practice problems. And I'm going to look at my variable, and it's 8 times x. So the opposite of 8 times x would be to divide by 8. And I have to do that to both sides. So 8 divided by 8 is 1x, or just x, equals, now negative 104 divided by 8 is negative 13. So x equals negative 13. That's my solution. And let's check it. So negative 104 equals 8 times x, or 8 times negative 13. So negative 104 equals, now positive times a negative is a negative, and 8 times 13 is going to be 104. So we worked that problem correctly. And our last set of practice problems are going to involve multiplication. So now our problems are beginning to kind of look like fractions. They have the variable v over 8, or v divided by 8, equals 2. So instead of dividing by 8, I need to multiply by 8 on both sides. So 8 divided by 8, again, is 1. It's going to leave v by itself on the left side. And 2 times 8 is 16. So I'm going to check my problem here. V, or 16 over 8, equals 2. And 16 divided by 8 is 2, so our solution is correct. Negative 6 equals v over 18. Now our variable is on the right side instead of left, so again, if that bothers you, I can flip it over if you would like to do that. Just don't lose your negative on your 6 or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and work this one flipped to kind of show you that that's okay. So b divided by 18 equals negative 6. So the opposite of dividing by 18 would be multiplying by 18 on both sides of my problem. So 18 divided by 18 is 1b, or just b by itself. And then on the right side, a negative times a positive is going to be negative. And 6 times 18 is 108. So b equals negative 108. So let's check it, make sure we did that correctly. B over 18 equals negative 6, or negative 108 over 18 equals negative 6. Now a negative divided by a positive is going to be negative, and 108 divided by 18 is 6. So negative 6 equals negative 6, and hey, we did that problem correctly. So my last slide here says, what do you think? So I'm just going to ask, just kind of a review here, is what operations are we going to perform in order to figure out our solution? The first one, x minus 7 equals 13. So what I need to do is do the opposite of minus 7. I need to add 7 to both sides. So I'm doing addition, and I'm adding 7 on the first problem. Alright, the second one is negative 17x equals negative 204. So instead of multiplying by 17, I need to divide by negative 17 on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and write it like that so you remember that. So we're dividing by negative 17 on that second problem. Alright, the third problem is m over 4 equals negative 13. So the opposite would be to multiply by 4 on both sides. So the third problem, we're multiplying by positive 4. And the last one, n plus 16 equals 9, so we need to subtract 16 on both sides. So we're subtracting 16 on both sides to get our answer on that last problem there. So just kind of look right there at that screen for a second there, and you can kind of see, alright, remember, opposites. You look at what's happening in the equation, and you're going to perform the opposite of whatever they're doing in that equation to solve for your variable. So I hope that this video could be helpful to you, and continue to email me if you have any more topics that you would like me to cover on the website.